And when you see, there's no artist, let me be clear, there's no artist in this industry that's doing major numbers with these platforms that haven't sold their soul.
Way intelligent person, when do you start questioning how lucky some motherfuckers keep getting?
What if I told you that everything you thought you knew about Michael Jackson's so-called final day was nothing but a staged illusion? Picture this, June 25th, 2009. The world froze. One moment, he was the king of pop, untouchable, adored, and in the next, news broke like wildfire. Michael Jackson had collapsed. Los Angeles turned into pure chaos. Paparazzi were chasing ambulances through the streets like vultures circling prey. Fans were glued to TV screens, sobbing, clinging to radios, desperate for updates. Within hours, the media had already sealed the story. Cardiac arrest, propofol overdose, tragic accident, case closed. But hold on a second, what if that's not the truth? What if Michael didn't actually die that day? What if the king of pop pulled off the most shocking disappearing act in history, not to escape fame, but to escape something much darker, something sinister?
Nothing I can do to take it back. And if someone was hurt by it, is saying I'm sorry.
You see, whispers around the Jackson estate have never died down. Insiders swear Michael saw it coming. In the months before that fateful summer, his behavior wasn't just strange. It was paranoid, almost like he knew predators were circling. He allegedly told LaToya, "They're going to end me for my catalog." Let that sink in. This wasn't some random paranoid thought. Michael knew. LaToya herself later admitted, "Michael told me he was going to be taken out, and I believe him." And we're not talking about just any catalog. We're talking about billions. Yes, billions in publishing rights. Michael owned music from the Beatles, Elvis, and his own legendary work. Whoever controlled that catalog didn't just control songs, they controlled the industry. Now think back to his final rehearsals for the This Is It tour. Just 2 days before June 25th, leaked footage surfaced. Michael was dancing, trying to keep up with the choreography. He looked focused, sure, but let's be real, he didn't look like Michael Jackson. He looked frail, hollowed out, barely holding himself together. This wasn't the moonwalking legend from the Super Bowl halftime show. This was a man running on fumes. And yet, friends close to him revealed something chilling. Michael was terrified of sleeping, not because of insomnia, but because he feared he'd never wake up. Imagine living with that kind of dread.
You know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my...
Then there's the black envelope. Oh yes, this is one of the most spine-tingling parts of this story. Rumor has it that just weeks before his supposed death, a sealed envelope arrived at Michael's LA estate. Inside, a typed warning allegedly from a high-level music executive. The message was crystal clear: stop talking, stop investigating, stop asking questions, or else. And guess what? The outside of the envelope didn't even have his name. It just said, "The final warning." Creepy, right? But it doesn't stop there. Around this time, Michael was leaving frantic voicemails, confiding in close friends, claiming he was being followed, that his phones were tapped, that shadows lingered outside his windows. "They're watching me," he allegedly said. "I'm not safe." Back then, most people brushed it off as paranoia. But now, after years of lawsuits, leaks, and suppressed files, his fears feel a whole lot harder to dismiss. And when you look at who was gaining power in the industry then, the puzzle starts looking less like paranoia and more like prophecy.
I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
And here's where it gets downright scandalous. Enter Sean Diddy Combs and Sean Jay-Z Carter, two titans of the industry, names that have always been surrounded by rumors, whispers, and power plays. Now fast forward to today, both of them are tangled up in lawsuits. Diddy, sitting in jail, awaiting trial on federal trafficking charges. Jay-Z, his legal team has gone so aggressive in court that even the judge called it inappropriate. But wait, here's the kicker. Sources close to Michael's former legal team claim that both of these names, yes, Diddy and Jay-Z, were scribbled on a handwritten list Michael kept. And the list wasn't called contacts or business partners. Oh no, it was titled enemies. Written in black marker, folded and taped to his travel case. Now, no one's saying Jay-Z or Diddy were directly involved in what happened to Michael, but you can't deny how suspicious it all looks. These two men have long-standing ties to some of the most shadowy figures in music. They've survived scandals, intimidation whispers, lawsuits, and now they're Their empires are crumbling just as Michael warned they would. Could it be that Michael was ahead of his time, that he tried to shine a light on this corrupt system years before it all began collapsing?
Regarding Michael Jackson at a party in Los Angeles. Apparently, a bunch of celebrities got together and they were having a tribute party for Michael Jackson. And one of Michael Jackson's songs was playing. What was the name of the song?
A Man in the Mirror.
Man in the Mirror was playing. There we go. And you know, the celebrities like Queen Latifah, Wesley Snipes, Hill Harper, they were all dancing, having a good time.
Michael Jackson wasn't shy about calling out corruption in the industry. Do you remember that fiery speech in Harlem back in 2002? He stood on that stage, raw, fearless, and exposed Sony Music for exploiting artists. He even accused Tommy Mottola, a top executive, of being straight up devilish, Michael wasn't just ranting. He was dropping bombs on an industry that kept black talent chained under contracts. People laughed at him back then, said he was eccentric, out of touch. But looking back now, that speech wasn't a meltdown. It was the opening shot in a war Michael couldn't possibly win alive. And then there's the money side of it all. At the time of his supposed death, Michael was drowning in debt, hundreds of millions, and AEG had him chained to a brutal deal. What was supposed to be 10 shows turned into 50. 50! Some even say he was pressured, that he didn't even fully understand what he was signing. And guess what happened once he was gone? The catalog, the empire, slipped right out of his hands. The very same people he'd been warning us about got richer. It's like the whole setup was designed for Michael to fall while others cashed in.
Guys, they found underground tunnels at Diddy's homes. This was first brought up by Shadow of Ezra, where he talked about the underground tunnels in Diddy's luxurious Los Angeles mansion. It was an underwater swimming tunnel leading to a mysterious grotto, reminiscent of an ancient and modern human use of.
And then, get ready for this, the clone theory. Sounds insane, right? But Michael himself believed it. Former Neverland staff have sworn he was terrified that people wanted to own him, even after death. One security guard remembers Michael demanding his toothbrush and hair samples be destroyed, because he feared someone could use his DNA to clone him. They want to own me even after I'm gone, he allegedly said. Crazy? Maybe. But then whispers emerged about mysterious tissue samples taken after his autopsy, samples that somehow were never logged officially. The Jackson family even ordered a second private autopsy, but most of those results still sealed. And don't forget the holes in the official timeline. Why did it take nearly an hour before paramedics were called? Why was Conrad Murray busy on the phone while Michael was unresponsive? Why did the LAPD keep parts of the toxicology report locked away for over a year? And then there's Paris Jackson, his own daughter, who boldly said in 2017 that her father was absolutely the victim of foul play. If Michael really didn't die that day, then where is he? Because let's be honest, the sightings, the grainy photos, the strange voice notes, the cryptic posts, they keep coming. One of his closest friends even teased, "Good news for believers," before deleting it. Suspicious? Absolutely.
There are people who did short sales on their stocks right after that, made a lot of money, including Sean Carter. Now I'm going to ask you, why would non-disclosure agreements need to be signed for an accident?
So here's the million-dollar question. Is Michael hiding, waiting, preparing to return with proof of everything he uncovered? Because think about it. The timing, the lawsuits, the crumbling empires, the cover-ups unraveling. It's all happening now, exactly the way Michael hinted it would. But here's where it flips into something even wilder. Behind closed doors, Michael wasn't just rehearsing for This Is It. Insiders whisper he was quietly planning something revolutionary, an independent empire that would have freed artists from corporate contracts. Imagine it. Michael Jackson, the king of pop, leading a movement to break the chains of the music industry forever. And guess who was allegedly right there with him in those secret talks? Jay-Z. Yes, Jay-Z. Picture it. The king of pop and the self-made rap mogul, side by side, building an empire so powerful it could have brought Sony, Universal, and Warner to their knees. But just as the dream started taking shape, Michael grew suspicious. He began to sense betrayal.
I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce, who was struck.
According to one veteran insider, Michael became convinced his so-called partner wasn't fully on his side. Was Jay-Z feeding information back to the same executives Michael was trying to topple? Think about how the timing plays out. Michael vanishes in 2009, and in the decade that follows, Jay-Z rises higher than ever before. Rock Nation grows into a powerhouse. Jay-Z joins billionaire circles, rubbing shoulders with corporate elites, becoming the face of an industry-approved rebellion. Now imagine the alternate reality. If Michael's vision had succeeded, those billions would have gone to the artists, not the shareholders. Instead, the old guard tightened its grip, and Jay-Z, he became their shining golden boy. It makes you wonder, did Michael's sudden exit open the runway for Jay-Z's meteoric takeoff? Was his disappearance just a tragic accident, or the perfect setup to keep the industry in check and crown its next chosen king? Because Michael's dream wasn't just noise. His speeches about exploitation were signals. He was preparing to act, but his fall conveniently cleared the path for someone else's rise. Now let's dive into the chaos of Michael's so-called final hours. Dr. Conrad Murray, remember him? The man painted as the reckless, incompetent fall guy. Stood trial while the world pointed fingers at him. But what about the phone records? This is where things get messy. Investigators uncovered that Murray spent those critical minutes after Michael lost consciousness making a series of calls. But here's the kicker. None of those calls were to 911. Not to family, not even to Michael's in-house security. Nope. Those calls were to unidentified contacts. And these weren't quick dials. They lasted minutes. Murray later insisted he was desperately seeking advice, while the world's most famous superstar lay lifeless on the bed. Please, some insiders believe those weren't panicked calls at all. They were calls to what's known in the industry as cleaners, people who swoop in to handle scandals too big to contain. Others think he was getting real-time instructions, what bottles to move, what equipment to hide, which timeline to establish. And let's not ignore the most haunting part. An entire hour slipped by before paramedics were finally called. Was that gross incompetence? Or was it choreography? And here's another chilling detail. Michael's estate. Within weeks of his so-called death, it was reorganized like clockwork. Contracts were signed, projects launched, and suddenly, a tsunami of posthumous releases hit the market. The machine didn't just keep running, it went into overdrive. It was like someone had the plan ready to go the second Michael was out of the way. Which makes Murray's phone calls look even darker. Not a doctor's panic, but a cog in a machine much bigger than him. But let's not forget the family, because no conspiracy feels complete without the bitter taste of betrayal. Michael's siblings had always had a complicated relationship with him, admiring his success, but overshadowed by his global stardom. And when he was gone, the claws came out. Court filings revealed siblings challenging his will, questioning if Michael even signed it, where and when the documents claimed. That's not just paperwork, that's a fracture. A hint that maybe, just maybe, parts of the family were aligning with the very power brokers Michael feared. And the whispers didn't stop there. Insiders have long suggested certain relatives benefited from his absence. With Michael gone, estates were shuffled, royalties surged, payouts flowed. Some fans couldn't help but wonder, were they mourning the man or cashing in on the brand? And then there's LaToya Jackson. She has never been shy about her suspicions. She went on record claiming her brother was sacrificed for his music catalog. But here's where the confusion sets in. While LaToya fueled the fire, other siblings distanced themselves, often dismissing or contradicting her statements. And that mixed messaging, it didn't silence speculation, it multiplied it. It left the public wondering, was the family fractured by grief or strategically divided to protect powerful allies? Their contradictions didn't feel like chaos. They felt like choreography. Imagine it. Family dinners doubling as boardroom negotiations, love entangled with leverage, loyalty blurred with business. If Michael's disappearance was engineered, maybe it wasn't just strangers in suits who played a role. Maybe it was people who shared his last name. One thing's for sure, this conspiracy isn't fading. It's growing louder, sharper, hungrier. With every lawsuit, every scandal, every crumbling empire, the whispers get stronger. And when the curtain finally lifts, the truth, whatever it is, will be explosive. So, what do you think? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because when it comes to Michael Jackson, one thing's clear. The king of pop's story isn't over, not by a long shot. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep asking the questions they don't want answered.